Now we come to the final session, and that's going to be a summary, a 15-minute summary of what transpired during the day. And I presume, Rahul, you will make the... both of them, yeah. So, Rahul Tripathi and Dattesh Perulekar, they will together give us a summary. Rahul Tripathi is an assistant professor, teacher in charge, Department of Political Science from Goa University, and Mr. Dattesh Perulekar is assistant professor, Center for Latin American and International Studies, Goa University. Please.
Also the very profound statement that the entire vision document makes. I mean, somehow to sum it up all within a span of 15 minutes is a very, very difficult task. So what I thought initially was that since I had roped in Dattesh, I thought I will be writing the report and Dattesh will be presenting the report. But then when we came here, Mr. Mashelkar said that he will look up to the final end product that we have. So like a very strict headmaster, he gave instructions. So I decided that we will have 15 minutes which are given to us. I'll just use the initial 2 minutes first to tell you about how we have gone about it. Then Dattesh will have his 5 minutes, and then maybe I'll have my Dattesh will have his 10 minutes, and I'll have my 5 minutes. What we have done is that without really going through each and every session here, we thought that the best way to present the report would be by giving a kind of a sum and essence of the arguments that came up. But in the process of giving the sum and essence of the arguments, we are also adding something by way of what we personally felt. Because I did raise my hand a couple of times, but I didn't get a chance. So I thought we'll bring in a bit of our input also as we speak. And I'm quite mindful of the dilemma I face here. I face a kind of an identity crisis. I thought when I speak, I'll speak as a political scientist. But then for Oscar, political scientists are a different breed altogether. So I speak as a social scientist. So I'll be on the side of Lydia and Professor Mashelkar. He's a real scientist. Dattesh will give an essence of the sessions as they proceeded, plus his views, and then I'll follow it up with some of the ideas that I have. So I welcome Dattesh, and we have been politically correct about our composition. Here is a person born in Goa, a young person, and just like the committee members, whereas I have been in Goa for the last 12 years, so my heart, mind and soul has been in Goa. And we have tried to put everything into this brief report that we have here. So Dattesh.
Okay, at the outset, let me compliment the chairman of the committee, the Golden Jubilee Development Council Committee, for, I think, constructing this event today. As he very well said in his opening remarks, that this basically was a participatory process as they saw it, trying to elicit the widest possible consensus from stakeholders within Goa. And while it was kind of a top-down process to begin with, where they had a certain group with which they consulted, in putting together this report, the whole endeavor, I believe, of this day-long deliberation has been to get really civil society engaged and involved, and trying to solicit their views and opinions on what would be the best model forward for Goa in terms of Goa's development. Now, I always have a couple of points, and I have them particularly in this context, and I say this with the highest amount of deference and the highest amount of humility towards the illustrious Dr. Mashelkar and others, is that first of all, we deal a lot with vision documents. But I think we also in this country should get inured to the whole idea of outcome documents. I think it's a very important thing because in anything that we see, we set out certain vision for ourselves, and the vision is always long-term, it has to be long-term. But then somewhere down the line, we lose sight of the need for execution, the need for parameters, the need for timelines, and then the whole thing just seems to drift into some kind of oblivion. Therefore, I believe that along with the vision document, if we can identify either any one of the clusters out of these 7, or maybe within these clusters certain micro elements, and be able to lay out for the government some kind of a timeline or parameters, it will help both the constructors of the vision document and also the government to see where they stand maybe 3 years, 5 years down the line, and how we're proceeding towards 2035. Having said that, another important factor I think is I'm a little queasy about these kind of very presumptuous utterances about any particular state or something. We are unique, we are progressive. Because I think in the end of the day, no matter how unique or not we may be, I think Goa is a microcosm of the country in itself. We have our pluses, we also have our pitfalls. But often what happens is when we put ourselves on a pedestal, we actually allow perception to drive the reality. And I saw this being from the education field when the whole debate over the Central University was happening. I mean, it probably was a no-brainer, it should have happened. But for whatever reason, it did not happen. So I think in that sense, we saw both. We saw the best side of it, and we also saw the excesses of a debate that went wrong. Now let me not go into the narrative of every session because I think it's not possible to encapsulate it within 15 minutes. But let me just kind of bring out some of the important thrust areas of every particular session. I think Sri Prabhakar Timle, when he spoke, the thrust really of the whole argument, which also came into the engagement, was the whole issue of how do we get a proper educational model in place. What should be the defining element of it? Should it be excellence? Should it be inclusion? Now, honestly, I have a view on this, and I think this also came out in the debate subsequently, that it's not an either-or situation. It's not excellence or inclusion. It's not juxtaposing these two alternatives. The bottom line, as Dr. Mashelkar also said, is three things. You need excellence, which has to be a defining hallmark, because a merit-based society is important. You also need a broad enough pyramid at the very base, so you provide access to people. But the most important thing really, I believe, is what we call as functional education. And when I say functional education, I'm not talking about churning out graduates for industry. That is one element of it which also has to be there. The more important thing is how can we equip our young people with the right skills. And those skills are not always at the top end. They're skills on all ends of the ladder. How can we give them the right skills to empower them to be able to earn gainful livelihood for themselves, which also gives them an element of gratification. I think that is what we have to look at in terms of a more different model from the kind of educational models we often look at. I mean, we also went into issues like skills deficit and others, which I think is a national phenomenon, so I won't go much into that. The next issue, of course, the next cluster that was dealt with by Mr. Kakodkar, I think was a very crisp presentation. He focused, of course, on physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, but the point which really came through, I thought, was the whole issue of urban planning and how we need to index our urban planning to certain parameters. For instance, population. For instance, if you're dealing with a certain sector, where is your public transport? I mean, it's scary when you hear that something like 65 to 70,000 vehicles commute in and out of Panjim on a daily basis. Now, what are the kind of facilities does Panjim as a city have to be able to cope with this kind of a strain? And I thought it was a very important message he was sending out, that our planning and our execution has to be both long-term and has to be in a very disciplined fashion, where often we take a very short-sighted and a very kind of an oblivious view of things. The next subsection to that cluster was the issue of agriculture, and I thought three issues came out of that. Agriculture can never be the engine for growth, but it can always be the backbone of an economy. Now, how you deal with agriculture in Goa? On the one hand, you need the right kind of mechanization to be able to deal with the falling labor force. You also need a certain amount of glamorization of agriculture, which makes it good enough to be able to go back and do agriculture without being seen to be demeaning. But you also need the third element, and which really is in case of being able to bringing back the capital back into agriculture, when agriculture actually preserves the local produce and the local producer as opposed to going global. Subsequently, we had Damodarji, who spoke on the issue of culture and a cultured Goa. And I think the recurrent theme that came through the whole sentiment was the issue of identity and how do we protect and preserve the Goan way of life. And a number of very, very good recommendations were made in terms of having your own TV center, in terms of promoting your own literary works, taking your playwrights outside. But the idea really was to engage with the culture, to make Goans familiarized with what actually is the gamut of our culture, to also make the people outside know the whole cornucopia of our culture, and also to be able to promote ourselves and to assert our identity and our uniqueness. I mean, this was an important factor. When it came to Advocate Cleophas, I think he made a number of points. I won't go into details, but really the idea he was trying to nail down, I think, was accountability. And he was trying to make the argument that do we have an accountability deficit in our country? We do. And which is why we see on a number of parameters that our bureaucrats cannot be held accountable. He made a number of issues, but one issue I think that was very important was on this whole issue where he talked about being able to pin down blame. Now, Lokayukta. Now, I have a view on this, which I think feeds into this whole discussion. Because on the one hand, it's important to have an objective Lokayukta who is an ombudsman. But we have to differentiate between an ombudsman and a crusader. I think what we run the risk of, and this is where the question was asked about, can we have a collegium to select Lokayukta? Why should it be the government of the day or the High Court of the day? No collegium can ever be absolutely objective. We can have issues with our politicians, we can have issues with our civil society people, we can have issues with our social activists. The bottom line is, what is the role that a Lokayukta will play? If he's going to be a crusader, then the problem is he might actually skew in favor of a certain vindictive attitude, wherein the actual thing has to be some kind of an ombudsman who regulates things. The last really session was, extended session really was Dr. Oscar, who of course dealt with, this different, he was of course scathing on the whole mining issue, but more importantly, he brought in those different, change agents, and he identified them in terms of 5 scientists, and how each one has an impinging effect on civil society. Identifying the financial scientists as being the most dangerous in collusion, of course, with the political establishment. Lastly, of course, was Rahul Deshpande, who of course spoke about the whole issue of urbanization and how we get the right configuration, and in terms of the regional plan 2021. Now, before I conclude and kind of hand over to Rahul, I really felt that an important factor that one has to do is, beyond having a roadmap for 2035, can we also have a kind of a short-term interim roadmap? I think it's very important that we lay out the interim steps to get to the big goal. Because quite often we are pitching far out, but if we don't lay out the actuals, the actionables that we can do in the interlude, I think what can happen is sometimes we may be pitching too far, and sometimes we may get into the realm of being a little unrealistic, and therefore, like all other vision documents, this shouldn't go down the drain. I have full confidence in the stature and standing of Dr. Mashelkar, and he also spoke very well about the fact that this whole process has bipartisan consensus, which is refreshing. But we know that this consensus can fall apart. We want this vision document to be different from what has happened to our national sports policy, where every government in the last 15 years has brought a national sports policy, and we are still searching for more than one gold medal. Thank you.
Well, just as we came to the podium, the day gave the news that we are very close to a gold medal now, because Sushil Kumar has already reached the finals of wrestling. So we are assured of a silver medal. We may be very close to a gold. So that's very auspicious. We are very close to the gold medal, and talking about the Golden Jubilee Committee report. So there is indeed something very auspicious about it. The Tej has made my task very, very easier, much easier than I thought. The way I would try to look for a phrase or a word which would summarize the sum in a sense, and which perhaps could add to it. In fact, I thought whether one more arrow could be added to the ones that Parshuram already has, but then there is no space there in the arrow. So I thought maybe the bow itself could be phrased in a certain way, and I thought of the word Sukshma. Now I requested the Tej to find me the English translation of Sukshma. He did not do. So if you look at Sukshma in a literal way, it would mean micro. But metaphorically speaking, Sukshma would be something which is more nuanced, more subtle. And this word Sukshma fits in very well with the whole idea of the size of Goa. I think each and every planning module, each and every phrase, every action plan that Goa has to be done with reference to the size. The size has to be a determinant. But then the size does not simply mean a kind of a physical connotation, it's a metaphorical connotation. So when the size or the word Sukshma becomes the bow, then I think each of the 7 arrows itself gets a very well-defined path and the objective where it has to reach. So metaphorically speaking, I think if we look at the whole question of planning, governance, education, from the perspective of a nuanced analysis of what Goa needs, I think we will find answers to everything. Now, when I say Sukshma or micro, I do not mean being subtle or micro in terms of our thinking. No, ideas have to be big, but the locale of these ideas in terms of their implementation has to be in tune with what the state, given its unique position and size, needs. Now, how to go about it? And I think that's where the recommendations that have come in from the seminar will have to be taken in, and that's where we are going to actually put together all the views that have come in, along with the recording, and present it in a more point-wise form. One suggestion that I would like to give, which Ratnesh also referred to here, is that could we really think of well, each of these 7 arrows and a micro plan with regard to each of these things: education, environment, sustainable development, culture. Not think of a plan till 2035, but say 5-year plan. Take a very, very micro case study. Look at how we can apply the metaphor of Sukshma to that plan. And then each of these plans become a kind of a seed for multiple such plans, which perhaps by 2035 can lead to maybe not 100% of what the report asks for, but still covers a lot of it. Coming from the knowledge segment, being a social scientist and not a political scientist, I can give one example where we are very conveniently located, I mean at the Goa University itself, in trying something here. We have a very good audio-visual recording system. We also had a plan actually by which we would have had a facility to actually make all our lectures simultaneously being telecast across to the colleges. So in terms of capacity, technology, things are there, existing. What was lacking actually was the software. No ideas were coming in as to, well, what is it could be a lecture or a discussion that would be perhaps relevant to a PG level students of political science at Goa University, but at the same time would be of significance to somebody in school who would want to learn about political science. Now with the facility we have, we can do it. And a small step has been taken towards building the software part. So I mean, just an example to show that we can become one place in the country where what is being taught in the university at a very basic level becomes available to the far nook corners of the state itself. So why not similar examples which are workable, for which already a capacity exists in other areas as well? And I'm sure it can be done. What we also need here, and that's where perhaps the most difficult part comes in, and again comes in within the category of the political class. Very often we have this tendency of blaming everything on the politics of the day, the politicians. Now I was very much encouraged to see that, well, we did not really make politicians the final recipient today. Politics of the day is something that we have learned to live with. So I mean, we have to overcome that constraint. We take the political class as a kind of a constant factor. Politics will be what it will be. The most encouraging sign for us here, perhaps, is the fact that, well, across the political establishment, there has been a unanimity with regard to the report. So could we request the political class in Goa perhaps to have a basic minimum political compact to agree on what basic minimum at least is for Goa that all political parties could agree to, and let's keep that as a compact for the next, well, I don't know, 5 years, 25 years, whatever. I feel that is possible because, I mean, if there is a sense of acceptance of the essence in some of this report, at least that basic political compact could be worked out, and that could become the kind of Raj Dharma that Parshuram used to talk about. One aspect which I must confess I haven't read the whole report because all my energies were into, okay, how would I respond to this, unless it is already covered, is also the fact of, well, Goa does need national attention. Let's not forget that India also needs the idea of Goa, and the whole idea of Goa is something that I've borrowed from my own head of the department, former head of the department, Peter D'Souza, who keeps talking of it. I think India needs the idea of Goa a lot more. So in that sense, Goa has to become the bridge for projecting India abroad. Goa has a unique location. So in that sense, perhaps how does Goa become a bridge, a kind of a very strong link outside? What makes me a lot more optimistic in this entire discussion here is that, the youth has started coming out in Goa and elsewhere. They've started coming out, they've started participating, they've started also speaking out. So I mean, gone are the days where we used to have indifferent youth who would perhaps be motivated more by the material issues and interests that would be there. I just wish we had more youth involvement here, but perhaps being a Sunday, they could not be here. The youth does provide us a lot of optimism. I mean, at a more personal level, I have this wonderful opportunity of working with the youth in Goa, so where it is the classroom, meeting them around. I think they can sense that things need to change, and if we need to change, ultimately they are the ones who are going to implement this vision for the future. So in that sense, I would like to conclude or summarize on a very, very optimistic note, mindful of all the challenges that were listed out here. I mean, points raised by Sabina, Albertina, and many other friends who spoke out are very, very well accepted here. In that sense, I presume, Ms. Nandini Sahib, the whole idea of organizing this conference was that we'll have a broad-based discussion. The document is certainly a work in progress, because a document will only be effective if the suggestions come in a manner where they become implementable in action format. So in that sense, I think each and every word that has been spoken here has been quite invaluable. So in that sense, I think our job is half done. We assure you, I and the Tej together, that we'll be putting together all the findings and try to put it before the committee in the best possible form. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think I personally learned a great deal. Thank you very much.
You know, my mind goes back to, I'll not take too long, just say something because I feel the urge to say that. Not too long ago, I gave this DD Kosambi Festival of Laws lecture, and the title of my talk was Making Impossible Possible. If somebody had told me that on a Sunday there will be 100+ people sitting from 10 to 6, that's why I made you sit, by the way, because I didn't want to be wrong on the numbers, I would have said impossible. You have made it possible. If somebody had said that from 10 to 6, the level of discussion, the dialogue, will be of such a high level, consistent, I would have said impossible. You have made it possible. And therefore, like you, I'll also like to end on a very optimistic note. Anyway, I have this reputation of being a dangerous optimist, as you must have seen. Alright? I feel dangerously optimistic about not only this vision, but now what I feel is that that vision 2035, those goals that were articulated, we might even reach earlier than 2035. Why wait until that time? You know, it is possible, because the energy that I have seen, the commitment that I have seen, the understanding that I have seen, the enlightened views in the way also, I mean, it's not just those comments, but you know, I go all around the world, all around the world, and I can assure you, I'm not trying to please you. I don't have, you know, I'm honestly telling you, the level was something that was incredible in terms of and that is why when we talk about Suvidya Goa, enlightened Goa, it is. Yes, there is no question. I think there is only one additionality that I want to just put here before you as we move forward. And to explain what I'm saying, I'm going to go anecdotal. You know, I have a granddaughter, her name is Ishwari. And this happened when she was 4, now she is 5.5. So in the morning, I would be sitting there reading newspapers, having a cup of tea, and she would be fooling around. What happened one day was, I said, she was learning alphabets. So I said, let me test you out. So I took a piece of paper, wrote A, showed it to her. What is it? She said A. I wrote D. She said D. So I went on doing that. And at a point in time, I wrote Z, and she was sitting here. And I said, what is this? She said N. I said, no, beta, it is Z. She said, no, Abba, it is N. You know, and this was Z. And from where she was looking, it was N. And both of us were supposedly right. You got the meaning for this enlightened audience, I don't have to say anything anymore. So supposedly, different people can be right. It depends upon the way you look at things, the circumstances from which you come, basically. All right? And therefore, this, to my mind, is the most important point as we sort of move along. When we become an argumentative society, why do things which take 6 months elsewhere in the world take 60 months or 600 months in this country? You know, somehow or other that has actually missed me, because I have always said that finally speed, scale and sustainability, these are the key words as a matter of fact, and we are off at these somehow or other. So while implementing this, and your point is absolutely right, we have to have sort of a planned program in the way that you talk about in terms of execution. I am extremely keen on the execution, because otherwise, you know, what's the fun? Finally, we are all there to make sure that Goa Forward Dream actually happens. And therefore, you will see, when you read the report carefully, you will see that although this is supposed to be a vision document, there are lots of here and now things that we have talked about. Short term, like 2012, 2017, you gave a plan on mining and this, that and the other. So there are lots of things that have been built in there. Some are short term, mid term, long term. So the point that you made is an excellent point, and we are extremely keen on that. Well, I was complimented by Rahul as a headmaster at the end. So thank you very much. But I hope you will take me as a well-meaning, good-hearted headmaster. It was important that we also, and yesterday night when we were talking, Satish and I, basically we were talking about excelling in everything that we do. And excelling in everything that we do means also excelling in the way we discuss and debate. All right? And I think we have demonstrated today, 10 to 6, 6:10. We are running 10 minutes sort of over, that we can actually even do that. You know? And if this we carry in everything that we do, basically, individually, at the end of the day, that's what matters, I think we can achieve it. And we can certainly say that yes, we can, Goa 2035 will happen. I'm very grateful to you, because this has been a very special day in my life. You know, as I approach 70, on 1st January 1943, I'll begin my 70th year, and I honestly tell you, I can multiply 70 by 365 and say that in those many days, this has been one of the finest days, because one feels reassured, one feels energized, one feels younger, one feels that we must live longer. You know, I had declared on in my D.D. Kosambi Memorial the Festival of Thought lecture that 2035 I won't be there. And somebody from the audience got up and said, we'll give you your ears, our ears, you know. And not only that, when I was in Australia as a Monash University, you know, Sir B. Matheson District Professor, I remember getting his email that yes, today is my birthday, and when I was praying, I said, reserve 1 year of my life for Dr. Mashikar. That is Goa. That is Goa. That's what makes us special, basically. All right? So, at the end, I must personally thank you. Personally, I'm extraordinarily grateful to you for making that happen. And Nandini, thank you for organizing this in the way that you and your team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Standing ovation.